All right, ready to dive into this Nature Conservation Officer interview prep? We've got some awesome guides from RoleCatcher to help us out today.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at career paths, some of those tough interview questions, and even how AI can help you get ready.
Sounds like we've got all the bases covered. But before we get into all that, what exactly is a Nature Conservation Officer?
Well, according to our guide, it's all about managing those local ecosystems,
Hmm.
making sure the needs of the community and the environment are both being met.
So it's kind of like being a mediator between the human world and the natural world.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be able to speak both languages, so to speak.
You'll need a good blend of scientific know-how, communication skills, and like you said, diplomacy.
Oh, for sure. Now, thinking about building a career in this field, the guide outlines 4 stages: junior, regular, senior, and then principal nature conservation officer.
So kind of like climbing a ladder.
Mm.
More responsibility with each step up.
Exactly. And understanding those stages can actually help you answer some of those tricky interview questions, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Because it shows you're serious about this, right?
Yeah.
Like you're actually thinking about a long-term future in conservation.
Right. Okay, ready to tackle some of these interview questions?
Hit me with them.
All right, first up, can you describe your experience with habitat restoration projects?
Classic. It's like they're saying, show me what you got.
Yeah, they want proof that you can plan, implement, and monitor these projects. Don't just tell them what techniques you know.
Give them a story, something that really shows you can handle the challenges.
Exactly. Like maybe talk about a time when budget cuts almost derailed the whole project, but you had to think outside the box to make it work.
Oh, I like that. So maybe partnering with a local school to get volunteers, or using recycled materials to keep costs down.
Exactly. Show them you're resourceful and a problem solver.
And I bet they'll hit you with some follow-ups, like what was your biggest learning moment? Or how did you measure the success of the project?
Definitely. Be ready for those. Now, next question. How do you stay up to date on current conservation practices and policies?
This one's all about showing that you're a lifelong learner, right?
Yep. Conservation is a constantly evolving field, so you need to show them you're on top of it.
So don't just say, oh, I read articles. Get specific.
Right. Mention conferences you've attended, specific journals you read, maybe even online forums where you discuss emerging trends.
Bonus points if you've taken any relevant courses or got some certifications, right?
Absolutely. Shows you're proactive. And be prepared to talk about something that's piqued your interest lately in the conservation world. Okay, next question. Can you describe your experience working with stakeholders, such as landowners and community groups?
Ooh, this is a big one. Conservation often means bringing different people together, even if they don't always agree.
Exactly. Think about a time when you had to facilitate a workshop or maybe helped a landowner implement sustainable practices, even though they weren't so sure at first.
They want to know you can handle those tough conversations and find common ground.
And then be prepared for the curveball. How would you handle a situation where a stakeholder's interests clash with conservation goals?
Oh, it's a good one. It's all about conflict resolution, right?
Yeah,
Finding solutions that work for everyone.
exactly. All right, before we jump into the next batch of questions, let's take a quick look at some career insights from the guide. Did you know that the job outlook for environmental managers is projected to grow by 8% over the next 10 years?
Wow, that's pretty encouraging. Seems like a good time to be getting into this field.
Yeah, definitely. The guide also mentions some certifications that can give you a boost, like certified wildlife biologist or certified environmental professional.
And I bet RoleCatcher's AI-powered CV builder can help highlight those, right?
Oh, absolutely. It can tailor your application to each specific job you're applying for. Speaking of RoleCatcher, their AI interview prep is amazing.
Oh, yeah, tell me about that.
Well, it gives you access to over 120,000 practice questions, and it even provides feedback on your answers. It's like having a personal coach.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I can see how that could help you refine your answers and boost your confidence.
Okay, back to those questions. The next one is, can you describe your experience with environmental impact assessments?
Don't let the fancy name intimidate you. They're basically asking how you evaluate the potential environmental effects of a project.
Yep. Think about a project where you had to identify potential impacts on wildlife, water, air quality. What steps did you take to minimize those impacts?
Did you come up with alternative solutions? Advocate for stricter monitoring? Things like that.
Exactly. They want to see that you can think critically and make informed decisions.
They want someone who can protect the environment.
Right. Okay, moving on. This one's all about your tech skills. Can you describe your experience with GIS software?
GIS is like a superpower for conservationists. It helps you analyze and map environmental data.
Yeah. Think about projects where you used GIS to make decisions, like creating habitat suitability models, mapping species distributions, or analyzing land use changes.
Be specific about the software you've used, the techniques, and the results. They might even ask you to walk them through a specific example.
Great point. All right, let's get a little more hands-on with this next one. Can you describe your experience with conducting wildlife surveys?
Time to show off your field skills. Tell them about the different survey techniques you've used, like camera trapping or transect surveys.
Share a story about a successful survey.
And don't forget the challenges. Did you have to deal with difficult terrain, unpredictable weather? The things that make field work interesting.
Exactly. Show them your passion and adaptability. Okay, let's talk funding. Can you describe your experience with fundraising and grant writing?
Conservation often needs a little financial boost, right? So being able to secure funding is key.
Right. Think about successful grant proposals you've written or maybe smaller fundraising efforts you've been involved with.
Show them you're resourceful and passionate about finding the resources to support your work. Storytelling is important here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Make them feel the impact of the project. Okay, moving on. Can you describe your experience with developing and implementing conservation plans?
This one's a biggie. They're looking for strategic thinkers who can translate ideas into action.
Absolutely. Highlight your experience with planning projects, whether it's managing protected areas, restoring ecosystems, or recovering endangered species.
And collaboration is key, right? Conservation plans rarely happen in isolation.
Right. It's all about working with different groups, from government agencies to community members, to achieve those shared goals.
Okay, last question for today. Can you describe your experience with environmental education and outreach?
This is where your passion for sharing knowledge and inspiring others really shines.
Talk about educational programs you've created, nature walks you've led, or even social media campaigns you've run.
Think about the different audiences you've reached and how you tailored your approach. It's about making those connections and fostering a sense of stewardship.
And maybe share a story about a time you inspired someone to take action. That always leaves a strong impression.
Definitely.
Well, that's a wrap for this set of questions, but don't worry, we'll be back with more. In part 2, we'll dive into how RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor your answers and really shine in that interview. Stay tuned.
We'll see you then. Welcome back. Ready to talk more about how AI can give you an edge in your job search?
Yeah, let's get into it. I know we touched on RoleCatcher's AI tools earlier.
Right, their CV builder is a game changer.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, you know how sometimes you feel like your CV just gets lost in the void?
Yeah, like you spent hours on it, and it's like, did anyone even read this thing?
Exactly. But RoleCatcher's AI analyzes job descriptions and figures out exactly what the hiring algorithms are looking for.
So it's kind of like speaking the AI's language.
Yeah, precisely. It helps you highlight the right experiences and use the magic words that make your CV stand out.
So you're more likely to get shortlisted and have a real person actually look at your application.
Exactly. And speaking of standing out, remember those interview questions we talked about?
Oh yeah, those were pretty tough.
Well, RoleCatcher has this incredible database of over 120,000 interview questions, all specific to different roles and industries.
Wow, so you can actually practice answering questions tailored to the exact job you want.
Yep. No more generic interview prep. And get this, their AI gives you feedback on your answers.
Wait, really? So it's like having a virtual interview coach.
Pretty much. It helps you refine your responses and make them stronger. And if you're feeling really ambitious,
Yeah.
they also offer video practice with AI analysis. You can record yourself answering questions and get feedback on everything, like your body language and tone of voice.
Whoa, that's next level. It's like having your own personal film crew giving you feedback. But okay, so let's say you nail the interview, you get the job. What then?
Well, that's where thinking about your long-term career path comes in. Remember those 4 stages of a nature conservation officer career we talked about?
Yeah, from junior to principal.
RoleCatcher's Guide really breaks down the responsibilities and skills needed for each level so you can start planning.
Oh, that's smart. So you can kind of map out where you want to go and what you need to do to get there.
Exactly. And they also highlight some certifications that can really boost your credibility and your earning potential.
So it's not just about getting the job, it's about building a successful and fulfilling career. Speaking of fulfilling, what about the actual work itself? What are some of the pros and cons of being a nature conservation officer?
Well, the guide paints a pretty appealing picture. I mean, you get to work outdoors, contribute to protecting the environment, make a real difference for the planet.
Yeah, it sounds like a career with a lot of purpose, but I'm sure it's not always easy.
Oh, definitely not. The guide mentions dealing with conflicting interests, like working with stakeholders who have different priorities.
Ah, right. So those negotiation and communication skills are really going to come in handy.
Big time. And it's not always a walk in the park, literally. The job can involve physical labor and dealing with all kinds of weather conditions.
Yeah, it's not your typical desk job.
Hmm?
But I guess for a lot of people in this field, that's part of the appeal.
Absolutely. All right, let's zoom in on those 4 career stages again. What can you actually expect at each level?
Okay, so starting with Junior Nature Conservation Officer,
Hmm?
what's that like?
Well, you'll probably be doing a lot of assisting senior officers, like conducting surveys, collecting data, and helping with projects. It's a great way to get hands-on experience.
So lots of learning on the job.
Definitely. Then, as you move into a regular nature conservation officer role, you'll start taking on more responsibility, planning projects, working with the community, and advising on policies.
Sounds like your leadership skills will start to shine here.
Exactly. And as you progress to senior nature conservation officer, you'll be leading teams, creating those long-term strategies, and representing your organization.
So strong leadership and a deep understanding of conservation are key at that level.
Absolutely. And finally, you reach the top. Principal Nature Conservation Officer.
The big boss.
Pretty much. You'll be overseeing policy development, collaborating with government agencies, and leading those massive projects with lots of stakeholders.
Wow, that's impressive. So it sounds like a really rewarding career path with lots of room for growth and making a real impact. But how do you even get started on this path?
Well, the guide recommends a few different degree subjects like environmental science, conservation biology, ecology, that kind of thing.
Okay, so a solid foundation in science is key.
Definitely. But don't underestimate those soft skills like communication, listening, and writing. Those are super important too.
Yeah, you're going to be doing a lot of communicating and collaborating in this role. And what about practical experience?
The guide stresses that as well. Volunteering, internships, field research projects, those can give you a real taste of what the work is like and help you build your network.
That makes sense. Okay, now let's circle back to those interview questions. How can RoleCatcher help you craft those winning answers?
Well, remember that one about habitat restoration projects? RoleCatcher can actually help you structure your answer in a way that highlights the skills the interviewer is looking for.
Oh, that's handy. So it's kind of like having an AI assistant helping you tailor your response.
Exactly. And for that question about staying up to date on conservation practices, RoleCatcher has this massive database of resources, so you can easily find articles, journals, and online forums to stay informed.
So you can impress them with your knowledge of the latest trends and challenges.
Exactly. And what about that tricky question about stakeholder collaboration?
Oh yeah, that one was a tough one.
Well, RoleCatcher can help you highlight your communication and problem-solving skills. It can even remind you to share specific examples of how you've successfully navigated those tricky situations.
So you can show them, you can handle those tough conversations and find solutions that work for everyone.
Exactly.
Well, we've talked a lot about the practical side of becoming a nature conservation officer, but I think it's important to touch on the bigger picture too, right?
Absolutely. Like, why is this career path so important in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, what kind of impact can you actually make as a nature conservation officer?
It's all about protecting the planet's biodiversity, and making sure there's a healthy future for everyone.
That's a pretty big responsibility.
It is. And nature conservation officers, they play a huge role in that. I mean, they manage ecosystems, find that balance between the needs of people and the environment, and they inspire others to care about nature.
It's a career with a lot of heart.
Definitely. And now that we've covered all the practical stuff, let's think about your personal goals.
Yeah, let's connect all of this back to you.
Exactly. Remember those 4 stages of a nature conservation officer career we talked about? Junior, regular, senior, and principal.
Yep, like climbing that career ladder.
Right. Which stage feels most exciting to you?
Do you see yourself leading big teams, creating these huge conservation strategies, or maybe even shaping policies?
Or maybe you're more drawn to the hands-on work, being out in the field, connecting with nature-educating communities.
There's no right or wrong answer here.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what you're passionate about, what your strengths are, and then you can chart a course that gets you there.
And RoleCatcher can help you with that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Their career guide really dives deep into each stage, the skills you'll need, the responsibilities, so you can visualize your future.
That's so helpful. So you're not just wandering around in the dark.
Right. And they also talk about the different sectors where nature conservation officers work,
So
like government agencies, nonprofits, private companies.
so there are tons of options.
Yeah.
And don't forget networking.
Oh, yeah, networking is huge, especially in this field.
Why is that?
Well, conservation is all about collaboration, sharing knowledge, working together to achieve these big goals.
So knowing the right people can open doors?
Exactly. You can find mentors, learn from others, and stay up to date on job opportunities.
Makes sense. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We talked about acing those interviews, navigating your career path, even using AI to help you along the way.
We really unpacked a lot.
But before we wrap up, let's leave you with something to think about, something kind of big picture.
All right, I like it.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave as a nature conservation officer?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. What impact do you want to have on the planet?
What kind of world do you want to leave for future generations?
Those are big questions, but they're important ones.
They are. You have the power to make a difference.
Yeah.
You have the knowledge, the passion, the skills to protect our planet.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way.
They have all those amazing resources to help you land that dream job and create that legacy you're dreaming of.
So go out there, make a difference, fight for the planet, and never stop learning.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.